All right, everybody, welcome back to Rare Photos. This was the setup I kind of had for my Elvis and the Legends channel, but I've got to figure out what to do with that channel because I really need to put the majority of the content that I do on Rare Photos. I'm not sure. I may turn it into a different channel, because that way you don't bounce back and forth trying to figure out what is on what. I mean, I might put some of my tribute music on there. I might put some of my singing Are You Lonesome Tonight, stuff like that. It's going to stay memories. But anyhow, before I do this, before I start reading some of the Faith of Elvis, I'm going to put a new song that I wrote called Dreaming About Graceland. And I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't been to Graceland, maybe it'll give you a visual, maybe an emotional feeling. And of course, if you have been, you should be reminded of it. So here we go. Dreaming of Graceland.
It's a place that when you visit, you never forget that first time. Driving through those music gates, excited to be standing in line. Walking past those lion statues and through those big front doors, listening to John Stamos on the iPad tour. To your right you'll see the long white couch and the fireplace. To your left the dining room where they sat down to eat and pray. Then the kitchen where they made bacon and eggs. You'll be talking to your friends about what you saw the next day. And long after your trip home or your plane lands, you'll still be dreaming of Graceland. You'll wish you could walk up those stairs and see where Elvis laid on that 9x9 king-size bed, but that wish will be in vain. So you'll keep walking on through the home he dearly loved. And when you leave that day, it still won't be enough. You'll walk down those mirrored stairs to where Elvis played some pool, then see where he shot those TV sets. Yeah, that part is cool. And then walk up to the jungle room and wish you could sit down inside the ropes on that cool couch and hear Elvis joke around. You'll remember long after your trip home or your plane lands. You'll still be dreaming of Graceland. You're gonna cry and cry and cry and cry when you're standing right in front of Elvis and Lisa's gravesites. You're gonna cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry some more. And some of you who weren't fans will not even know what for. Yeah, you'll remember long after your drive home or your plane lands. You'll still be dreaming of Graceland.
We're back. Let me kick my feet up here and do some reading for y'all. The Faith of Elvis. Okay? Billy Stanley and I took a break. Not like a break as in, hey, let's not talk to each other, let's not be friends. But essentially, I think he was want to make sure that y'all don't get tired of his stories. It was right around the holiday times. We are going to be doing some more videos. He loves you Elvis fans. He understands how much Elvis loved y'all. And he's got a great book here that I feel kind of remiss that we haven't been reading it. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to go to chapter. We've already done Oh Happy Day, which was chapter 9. All right, so we're at part 2 is where we left off. Okay, part 2, his calling. Chapter 10, where no one stands alone. Actually, we read that. We are at chapter 11, because chapter 10 talked about how on one day in 1969, the Memphis Press Scimitar said that Elvis Presley used his fist to flatten a former employee during an argument. That was not Elvis's fault. He was sticking up for those around him. All right. So, chapter 11 is By and By. Anyone who knew Elvis could tell you that he was a loyal man. You might even say that he was loyal to a fault. Now, were all of Elvis's movies blockbusters? Of course not. Did Elvis himself know many of his movies, especially in the second half of the 1960s, were not that good? Yeah, he did. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager from the beginning, had kept his promise to make Elvis successful. However, the Colonel, as he was known, had lost touch with the shift in popular tastes. People weren't as interested anymore in silly, predictable movies like the ones that Elvis starred in most of the time. Now, they had some basic formula that was about the same. Elvis usually played a little bit of a rebel. He gets into a fight and wins the girl. He sings a lot of songs along the way, and there's a happy ending. Between 1956 and 1969, Elvis made a staggering 33 films, a lightning fast paced by modern standards. But by the mid-1960s, he had gotten tired of doing the same kind of movies. He was at one point in his career that he wanted to do more dramatic roles. Now, as Elvis's manager, the Colonel was supposed to be looking out for Elvis and creating new and exciting opportunities for him. But he no longer had his finger on the pulse of the entertainment that he once had. Elvis's movies still made money, even though no one considered them to be serious entertainment. As someone once said, the only sure thing in Hollywood was an Elvis movie. His movies made money, so much more money than movies could be made. His money made money, so more movies could be made. In an endlessly repeating loop, he was in danger of becoming more and more irrelevant. Now, Elvis is best known for his music, but he was a gifted actor, and I witnessed this firsthand, not just on movie sets with Elvis, but also at Graceland. He would read his lines and memorize speeches and recite them. He also acted out the Bible for us sometimes, reading it and then portraying different characters in the passage. His movie co-stars were also sometimes surprised at the range of his acting. Now, after Elvis died, his King Creole star, Walter Matthau, commented, he was an instinctive actor. He was very elegant, sedate, refined, and sophisticated. Other actors and co-stars made similar comments. Many people considered Elvis quite a good actor, but he rarely had the opportunity for better roles due to agreements locked in by the Colonel. Now, the Colonel wanted him to stick with the predictable Mom and apple pie roles. One notable exception was 1969's Charro, a Western in the vibe of Sergio Leone's classic The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Elvis was excited to play a different kind of role, and in fact grew a full beard for the movie. The only time he did this. Now, Charro was also the only movie where Elvis did not sing on screen. I thought I was really going to have a chance to do something serious here. Well, Elvis actually said, I thought I was really going to have a chance to do something serious here. But every time I had the chance to do something exciting, like draw my gun, instead of drawing it, I had to give a dirty look, and just a dirty look. He started to laugh. Now, Elvis didn't think much of his own movies, but there were other actors that he loved, like the Dirty Harry series. He wanted to play the lead in Barbra Streisand's A Star is Born, but Colonel Parker killed that possibility. There's a lot of thoughts about that. I think we'll ask Billy about the next time if this was just something that was a overall mood thing that he kind of heard in the circles, or whether or not Elvis told Billy about this. The Colonel thought it was too different from Elvis's usual type of movie role. Despite his frustrations, Elvis tried to enjoy his time as a movie star. I remember him talking about a conversation he'd had with his co-star, Shelley Fabares, at a set of clam bake. He said, one day I was sitting on a set with Shelley, and I just told her, you know, sweetie, we're not going to win any Academy Awards doing this stuff. So let's just make it fun. And that's exactly what Elvis did. They would have squirt gun wars and water balloon fights on set because they needed something to break up the monotony. And when you're on a movie set, it's mostly hurry up and wait, while the crew gets set up for the next scene and adjust lighting or a couple hundred other things. The producers and directors didn't care too much for Elvis's antics on set, but his attitude was, what are they going to do, fire me? I'm here to do a silly little movie, so let's have fun. Now, Elvis was always generous, trying to make it fun for the people in the movie. He could have done what so many movie stars did and sat alone in his trailer, but he told me that if any of his co-stars or anyone else involved with the movie ever wanted to talk to him, he would sometimes read a few verses of the Bible with them. Even on a movie set, God's word was never far away from Elvis. It was in his heart at all times. The successful movies that Elvis started out in, the movies Elvis made started out as something fun. But they soon became so successful that by the time he received his draft notice in December of 1957, he had contracts for several more Hollywood movies. However, by the time he had completed his Army service in March 1960, his future was uncertain. The only way the Colonel could think of getting Elvis's career back on track was to go right back to making movies. Now, the movie contracts wouldn't let him do live performances. I wonder why. Were they afraid he was going to get hurt? Elvis did perform a couple concerts for the Arizona Memorial in 1960 and 1961, as well as a couple of other live appearances like going on the Frank Sinatra show. But for most of the 1960s, Elvis focused exclusively on making movies. The Colonel was concerned about Elvis having too much publicity. Now, that seems crazy looking at it from today's point of view, but at that time there was a limited number of ways you could experience a celebrity. There were a few television channels, various radio stations and movies, and live concerts. And that was pretty much it. That's the truth. Nowadays, you can't get enough exposure because there's so many artists, there's so many actors, there's so many people trying to make it in the entertainment field that it's inundated. It's watered down in a way. Back then, your time was worth a lot more than it is now. All right. The Colonel didn't want to saturate the market with too much Elvis. He thought 3 movies a year plus a soundtrack to go with each one was enough. That's not what Elvis wanted to do, but he always honored his contracts. Some people believe that the Colonel made Elvis. Not true. If the Colonel was responsible for Elvis's success, why didn't he help any other young stars rise to the same level of success? Okay, so this is where, Billy and I think we talked about this on the phone. We can disagree about stuff. We can disagree about Lucy DeBarban and Desiree Presley, and I think we can disagree about this. I don't like Colonel Parker. I don't like the fact that I believe that he caught lightning in a bottle. But Colonel Parker knew that with that lightning in a bottle, he could make Elvis the biggest star. He had helped Eddie Arnold out. Hank Snow, those guys. He really had, and he had a lot of contacts. And so it's not that Elvis was made by Colonel Parker, but Elvis was viewed on a worldwide stage because of Colonel Parker. As cool as Elvis was, as innovative as Elvis was, as great as Elvis was, he was doing 3 and 4 shows constantly, burning himself out, rolling back. At some point in time, somebody can choose to settle down and stop pursuing it. Sun Records couldn't help him the way Colonel Parker did, and if it wasn't for Colonel stepping in and, in a sense, making Elvis, we would not have the Elvis we would have today. And I truly believe that, because it's all about timing. Now, I don't like the fact that Parker stuck him in all those movies for as long as he did, but we have a lot of cool movies to enjoy, don't we? A lot that we very much enjoy. But, you know, Elvis needed to make money, wanted to make money, and that's part of the problem. Then the live shows in Vegas, kind of the same thing. He was getting more money than anybody, but he got worn out with that. So it's almost like a relationship that was a kind of a good relationship, worked for each other for a while, and then it didn't, and then they just stayed in it for too long. But I mean, I do respect Billy's opinion on this. I'm going to go back and read what he's saying. Some people believe that the Colonel made Elvis. Not true. If the Colonel was responsible for Elvis' success, why didn't he help any of the young stars rise to the same level of success? And here's why. Elvis was his only guy. He didn't want to mess with the cash cow. He figured the more he would get more money out of Elvis. Now, I know this is going to, you know, to work on Elvis full time than somebody else. Now, after Elvis passed, Colonel was still making a bunch of money for himself, for Priscilla, for Lisa. I really was. He was still making money. This is Elvis movie, so he didn't need to. And then he got sued, and then he just didn't want to do anything at all ever again. The Colonel Parker is responsible for George Strait being in Pure Country. When you hear twin fiddles and a steel guitar, you know, Pure Country, I cross my heart and promise to. The big movie that made George Strait from a B star, he was successful enough, but it made him into an A star because Colonel Parker set him up with whatever that producer was, told him he needed to do movies. So I think he could have made other people stars with hard work, but nobody like Elvis. So once again, I'm not saying Elvis didn't have the talent or skill set. He certainly did. But you have to catch that lightning in a bottle, and you've got to sell it. And Colonel Parker was the greatest salesman of all time. And in the end, that and Elvis's inability to, since he was so loyal, to really let go of Parker, even when he tried to, the money, you know, I think he just didn't have the faith that anybody would get him as much money as Parker did, because he had no experience in knowing that at that point in time. All right, honestly, Elvis had outgrown the Colonel by the time the 1960s rolled around. If Elvis would have had better management, I believe his career would have taken a whole different trajectory. With a bigger variety of movies, he could have become one of the greatest movie stars of all time. But he saw the writing on the wall and knew his opportunities in that field were limited as long as Elvis, or as Colonel was calling his shots. That's why Elvis wanted to get off the silver screen and back onto stage. His talent wasn't being put to its best use, and that's, I completely agree. That he had to be dying in the movies after a while. As he said to me one time, Billy, there's a big difference in people seeing me on screen instead of being on stage, standing before him. Elvis wrote a note to himself near the front of his Bible. There's a season for everything. Patience will reward you and reveal the answers to your questions. Perhaps he was thinking of Ecclesiastes 3:1 when he says that it says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the sun. Elvis had been patient long enough. His season of starring in movies would soon be coming to an end. I'm going to stop right there. But I do need to start reading more of The Faith of Elvis, as well as take a look at Billy's other book. Let me know what you think of this. I mean, I know we're going to have Billy back on soon, and I know y'all miss him. And I've enjoyed the conversations. I kind of wish we'd been just kept going on every week, because I felt like the conversations were flowing good. Just like with Derry Matera, we kind of took a break too, because I was going to get some of his other books and start reading some of those on another channel. But I hear you. I hear your comments. You want Billy back. You want Derry back. and you want more conversations with the subscribers, like I've got the subscriber series going. And as you can tell, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Well, I've been feeling a bit better. Anyways, hope you've enjoyed the interviews I've been presenting and the conversations about Priscilla and everything else that I try to put on this channel. Elvis loved y'all very much. He loved me as a fan, even though he never met me. And he appreciated us. And I think we should just keep putting his name out there and keep honoring his talent and skill set. And I was thinking maybe the Elvis and the Legends channel, I might turn into the Gospel of Elvis and talk about Bible stuff and read Bible stuff. That may be what I do to that channel. Because I do have a great heart for the Lord. And I know Elvis did, and he was a great searcher for the truth. So anyhow, TCB TLC, this is Rare Elvis Photos. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.